Every now and then, a product comes along that on paper seems almost impossible. This is the Beelink SEi13 Pro, and what they've attempted here is truly ambitious. They've taken the Intel Core i9-13900HK, a 14-core Intel CPU that can even bring high-end laptops to their knees, and engineered it to fit in this tiny little package. It's truly an incredible amount of power in an incredibly small space, and it makes you ask the question, if you put a Lamborghini engine in the body of a Toyota Prius, what happens? That's the experiment I want to run today, because all that power creates immense heat. So we're asking 3 different things today. Has Beelink created an engineering marvel? How much of the i9's power can you actually use? And is this the right kind of powerful for your needs? Let's hop in and find out. Now this unit here was sent over for Beelink for review purposes. They have no editorial input or prior access to this video. All testing, opinions, and conclusions are entirely my own, reflecting genuine experience with the mini PC. As always, I'm going to give you guys my full honest thoughts to what I think about it. So let's dive in. Inside the box, you'll of course find the mini PC itself. You get a nice little greeting card, a user manual about the PC itself and how to do some upgrades if you're interested. You also get a massive power brick. This is from a very reputable brand, Huntkey. They make a lot of power adapters. You also get a small HDMI cable, and that's all we get in the box. The mini PC itself feels dense and well constructed. The chassis has absolutely no flex or creaking, conveying a real sense of quality. A particularly noteworthy design element is the cooling architecture. This draws all the air in through the bottom, through a high-density metal dust filter. Quite a practical design, and this should significantly reduce the internal dust accumulation over the long term. The selection of ports is quite generous. It tells us a great deal about the machine's intended function. The front panel provides access to a USB-A and a USB-C port, as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack, and of course the power button. On the back, we get 3 USB-A ports, our Ethernet port, a display port, an HDMI port, a USB-C port, and the DC barrel jack. Unfortunately, this unit does not include a USB 4 or Thunderbolt port. This is a pivotal design choice. This means the graphical capabilities of this machine are primarily defined by the integrated Xe graphics, as an external GPU is not a viable expansion path. This decision channels the SEi13 Pro away from graphically intensive workloads and squarely towards tasks that are CPU bound. It's a decision that allows Beelink to package all of this performance into the system that comes with a launch price of only $539 US. This really sets the stage for a performance per dollar value. First impressions are very positive. I have not seen a mini PC with this level of build quality and design. It's absolutely incredible. So what are the specs of this mini PC in particular? As mentioned earlier, this comes with the Intel Core i9-13900HK, a powerful CPU with Intel Xe graphics. We also have built-in speakers and a built-in microphone. Beelink has stated this PC is very quiet at only 32 decibels, and I'll tell you my experience with it later. You can output 4K 60 through the HDMI, and the DisplayPort 1.4 can output 4K at 144 Hz. The USB-C port is also capable of 144 Hz at 4K. This device comes equipped with 32 GB of dual-channel memory. This is LPDDR5 at 6000 MHz. We have Wi-Fi 6 provided by Intel's AX200 adapter, which also has Bluetooth 5.2. Inside this machine, you have dual M2 2280 slots that run at PCIe 4.0 x 4 for a max storage capacity of 8 TB. Let's hook this up and take a closer look at the mini PC itself. The SEi13 Pro arrives with Windows 11 Pro pre-installed and activated. It's a clean installation. As soon as you power it on, you're going to be greeted with your standard Windows setup. The nice thing about this setup here is you don't have to create a Microsoft account. You can just make a local account. As in my standard practice, I'm going to go ahead and perform a full offline security scan before connecting the device to the network. While this is running as well, let's go into the task manager just to see what kind of processes they have running. The services and processes look very safe. I don't see anything out of the ordinary here. The startup processes are pretty bare bones, but I'm going to go ahead and turn off a few of these as well. As you can see, Windows 11 Pro is activated and it's on the latest 24H2 version. Processor is showing correctly and you have that 32 gigabytes of internal memory. As this is connected to my capture card via HDMI, it is showing 4K at 60 Hz correctly as well. There's no unknown devices connected here, so all the drivers are properly configured. The security scan finished. My unit was clean with no discernible bloatware or suspicious software for users who prioritize a completely pristine environment. Performing a fresh installation of Windows from official Microsoft media is always a nice suggestion, but I can't find anything out of the ordinary. This is a clean device. I think this is a really good TDP considering the size of the machine itself. The memory is soldered on board, but it is also running at the correct speed. It is also running with a CL latency of CL60 with a command rate of 1. This is excellent. CL60 is pretty average for DDR5 memory, but with a CL rating of 1, it's going to be running with pretty low latency. The memory is also manufactured by Micron. For setting everything up on the PC, I like to use Ninite. This allows me to go through and select all the software that I want. Then all you have to do is click Get Your Ninite, and it's going to go ahead and batch install all that software. The next thing you should probably end up doing is going to the Microsoft Store and letting it do all the updates. There's a lot of Intel drivers here, but there is also a little bit of Microsoft bloat. Once this is done, I recommend going into your apps and just scrolling down and uninstalling the ones you don't need. Again, these are just basic apps that Microsoft has pre-installed. This is not a Beelink thing. Now let's quantify the performance of this mini PC. Let's start things off with CPUZ. Initial benchmarks confirm the raw power of the i9. CPUZ reports an excellent single-thread score of around 855. Multi-threaded score is just over 7100. To put this into perspective, these are the other two PCs that I have and how they stack up. All in all, these are some impressive results. To quantify that level of performance, this puts this processor above the 9600X, the 9700X, and the 9900X, just shy of the performance of the 9950X from AMD. There are a few other Intel chips that are just slightly ahead, but this is a very impressive result, especially for a mini PC. When you factor in 20-threaded performance, this puts this processor just shy of some other Intel processors, and slightly ahead of the Ryzen AI 9 365. However, when you look at 16 threads, things get a little bit more interesting. Since a lot of gaming desktops run with 16 threads, this shows kind of a little bit better how it sits into place. This is pretty much on par with the 7800X3D or the 5950X. Other more modern Ryzen processors like the 7700 and the 7700X do inch out ahead, especially when it comes to 16 threads. This is also a powerful workhorse. With one thread in Cinebench, we're boosting upwards of 5.4 GHz. These numbers do represent the chip's peak potential. However, in a more compact system, telling story is how that power is managed over time. Cinebench R23 does an excellent job at rendering out this relatively quickly. Even under heavy sustained load, this chip averages around 60 to 80 degrees Celsius. The average frequency of a lot of these cores is around 3.5 to 3.8 GHz. This does a really great job at managing its thermals. If you're looking to buy this PC specifically for workloads like this or content creation, I think you'll be pretty impressed. The processor has a nominal 65 watt TDP. after which the system intelligently manages its power limits to maintain thermal stability. The included 1TB Crucial P3 Plus SSD offers excellent, solid performance, with AS SSD benchmark showing read speeds of nearly 4,000 megabytes per second and write speeds around 1.5 to 2 gigabytes per second. This ensures fast boot times and application loading. It's an excellent hard drive. True and tested, the P3 Plus is definitely one of the solid performers in the community, and it's excellent to see a brand name SSD in this computer. For media consumption, the SEi13 Pro is an excellent performer. It handles demanding 4K 60 FPS HDR content on YouTube flawlessly. I had a few drop frames at the beginning, but once it buffered in, the performance was solid. This makes it a superb choice for a discreet and powerful home theater PC. 8K performance, however, is just a little too much for the chip without a dedicated graphics card. When it comes to gaming, setting the right expectations is key. Given the focus on CPU power when it comes to the nature of integrated graphics, this is not positioned as a high-end AAA gaming rig. However, it is still extremely noteworthy. Lighter titles like Dead Cells run absolutely flawless at 60 FPS, and it's only using around 50% of the GPU. So how does a more demanding game run? Hades 2 is a really good example of a game that's well optimized. I'm going to set this to full screen and I'm going to turn down the resolution to 1080p. It's definitely not a 4K gaming PC. I'm going to set the graphics quality to medium and we'll go from there. Even in medium, this is running much better than I thought it was going to run, getting a solid 60 FPS at 1080p medium. So let's bump it up to high. With 1080p high, it's still running remarkably well. The GPU has gone up to about 60%, but it is running in its max boost speed of 1.5 GHz. I'm actually kind of impressed to see how well this is running. If you wanted this for some light indie gaming or some RTS games, I think you'd be pretty happy. So if Hades 2 runs, let's try something even more demanding. Deadzone Rogue is a new roguelike. This is kind of where we have to start making some compromises. I've just loaded in and I'm only getting about 40 FPS, so let's take a closer look at these settings. This is running at 1080p right off the bat, and I have TSR on with 50% resolution scale. I'm also pushing normal settings, but I think I'm going to have to turn a few things down, so I'm going to go ahead and turn down the visual quality and the global illumination. I'm also going to make sure to shut off motion blur. Of course, I'm going to have ray tracing off and I'm going to leave VSync on. I have NVIDIA Reflex set to low latency, but frame generation is shut off. I'm going to turn this down to 1600 by 900 with 60% resolution scale, so we're making some compromises here. Even with that, we're still around 40 FPS. That being said, the overall experience is still relatively smooth. You could play some light 3D games with this PC. Deadzone Rogue is relatively playable. 40 FPS is not bad. I still think the graphics look pretty decent. The nice thing is as well is there is no major stuttering. So let's step things up and try another game. Persona 5 Royal is another example of a game that's really well optimized, especially for low-end hardware. I've been able to run this on a lot of different handhelds without issues. For Persona 5 Royal, I'm going to go down to 1600 by 1200. I'm going to set this to full screen with VSync on. The rendering scale is going to stay at 100% with shadow quality set to low. I'm going to turn that frame rate limit down to 60, and the anti-aliasing I'm going to turn on to FXAA. I'm also going to turn down the depth of field to low. The performance is not bad, around 40 to 50 FPS. You could definitely play this game like this. Not a PC aimed at gaming, but I am very impressed with the overall performance available, provided you are willing to make some compromises. This brings me to one of the other highlights about this PC in particular, the BIOS, which offers a useful set of features for advanced users. From first glance, it appears that this is a completely unlocked BIOS. You can do pretty much anything that you need to here. We can access anything like power control. We can turn things off like turbo mode, and we can configure the power limit. We can also manually set a power mode. If you wanted a quieter operating and cooler operating PC, you can manually adjust the power limits here. It is a pretty quiet PC, even with 54 watts set as the TDP. We'll talk about that fan noise in a little bit. You can also configure the turbo options, adjust your C states, you can adjust the GPU settings, and we even have an overclocking menu if you're feeling a little ambitious. At stock, this is the default fan curve, but you can adjust this here as well. It's good to see a fully unlocked BIOS like this. This lets power users adjust what they need. This brings us to fan noise. I'm usually really bothered by loud fans in PCs, and this one has not bothered me whatsoever. I'm going to try recording what the audio sounds like with this Lark M2. If you guys don't like how the audio sounds with this one, let me know, and I'll try to pick up something a little bit more professional. Right, let's see what it sounds like. Considering the size of the mini PC and the power at play, I don't think it's that bad. The other thing I'm wondering is how hard it is to upgrade this device in particular. We know we can't upgrade the RAM, but how easy is it to access the SSD inside if I want to put another one in there? First thing that we need to do is to remove the 4 rubber covers. These sit over the bottom of the screws. They're pretty easy to get off with just a set of metal tweezers. Then we of course just need a Phillips screwdriver. The nice thing about this PC in particular is there's a little pull tab on the bottom. You can use this to lift up the back cover. Underneath you're greeted with the speakers and the dust cover. There's 2 more screws on each of the sides. You want to lift this up slowly because there is a cable underneath it. That ribbon cable attaches to the board on the bottom, so just be very careful when you pull this up. There's a lock on each side, so you just have to push this up and the cable should slide right out. There is one more M2 slot, which sits right here, and it plugs in just underneath. You can also upgrade the Wi-Fi adapter, which sits underneath this second M2 slot. Let me go grab an SSD and let's try tossing it in. I have this old 970 Evo Plus on hand. Make sure to remove that screw on the end of the M2 slot. Not bad at all. That was really easy to install. Let's flip that heatsink back over and get it all put together. For the ribbon cable, just make sure that these locks are pulled up. See how these are lifted up? That means that it's unlocked. So just make sure to push those up before you slide it into place. Then once that ribbon cable's in, just push it down and it'll lock into place. Another handy tip is just make sure that this part with the contact pins faces the outer part of the device itself. So after thorough analysis, we return to our central question. What is the Beelink SEi13 Pro? It is unequivocally a specialist tool. It's a machine built with a clear and focused purpose. Its strengths are profound. The raw, multi-threaded CPU performance is exceptional, making it a powerhouse for tasks like software development, running complex virtual environments, or heavy data processing. The build quality is excellent, and the dual M2 storage provides a welcome degree of flexibility. The machine's identity is defined by its trade-offs. The formidable CPU power is prioritized over graphical versatility. The immense performance potential isn't overly compromised by the silent operation under load. So who is this PC for? This machine is for the professional or the enthusiast whose workflow is bottlenecked by CPU processing power, and for whom GPU acceleration is a secondary concern. For the user, the SEi13 Pro offers a level of performance in a compact form factor that's difficult to match, especially at its $539 launch price. For gamers seeking to play the latest AAA titles at high settings, or creative professionals reliant on GPU accelerated rendering, other machines with graphical expansion capabilities would be a more suitable choice. The SEi13 Pro doesn't try to be it for everyone. It's an exercise in focused power, and for the right user, it's a powerful, compelling option that confidently achieves its mission. If you found this analysis helpful, consider subscribing for more deep dives into technology that shapes our work and play. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.